Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to bills. I have bills for Road and Bridge in the amount of $138,755.71. I will need a motion and a second to pay the bills.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson.
I'll second that.
Second by Dion Wright. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could I please have a roll call?
Sapien?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Alberico?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have any citizens wishing to address the board tonight in regards to the Road and Bridge Fund? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the Highway Commissioner's report. Commissioner Lauch did let me know he unfortunately wouldn't be able to make it tonight. He had a very, very brief report that he passed on, mainly that there's currently construction happening in the Bonnie Brae area. That's a partnership between the Highway Department and the Bonnie Brae Sanitary District. Everything's going smoothly so far, it's still in its early stages, and he'll give a more in-depth update at the June meeting. But also, if anyone had any questions, feel free to reach out to him. No other business for Road and Bridge. Did any board members have any questions or final thoughts? Hearing none, if I could entertain a motion and a second to adjourn the Road and Bridge Fund meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson.
So moved.
Second by Ronald Barico. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Road and Bridge Fund meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Moving on now to the Lockport Township regular meeting. For minutes, I have two sets of minutes for this month. One is for Town Senior GA and Capital, and that's for the monthly meeting of April 7, 2026. The second was for a bid opening that recently happened on April 29, 2026. I will need a motion and a second to approve both sets of minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson.
I'll second.
Second by Ronald Barico. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to bills. So I have four sets of bills tonight. For town, I have bills in the amount of $1,867,362.90. For senior, the bills are in the amount of $56,096.88. For GA, the bills are in the amount of $21,972.92. And then for capital, no expenses so far, it's $0. I would like to point out that for town specifically, the reason why the number is so high is because $1.5 million was a direct transfer from town fund to capital, which is what the board approved via a resolution not too long ago. And so true expenses are only the amount of $367,362.90. And then again, no bills in capital so far, as nothing has been paid for construction projects. Are there any questions on any of these sets of bills? Hearing and seeing none, if I can entertain a motion and a second to approve all sets of bills.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson.
I'll second that.
Second by Dion Wright. Madam Clerk, could I please have a roll call?
Sapien?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Alberico?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public tonight? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to reports. The first report of the night is the clerk's report. Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Supervisor. We've been very busy at the clerk's office in the past month. The annual town meeting took place on Tuesday, April 14th, with 8 people in attendance. The township's statement of economic interest requirements were completed by everyone by May 1st. We had over 170 people in for notary public services in the last month and have distributed over 74 baby diaper bundles. Since April 8th, we have sold 100 license plate stickers. Our grand total since the December 15th start date is 307 stickers sold. Our township-sponsored Herskate event took place on Friday, May 8th. We did have 2 cancellations I was able to fill with 2 people on our waiting list. We have 3 more dates planned for this year. More information will be available soon. We have been preparing for our 6th annual Community Fun Day, which will be held this Saturday, May 16th, 2026. This event will be held in the community center as well as outside. We have 56 participants. Food vendors will include Manja Pizza and Nikki V's food truck. Both cash and credit/debit cards will be accepted. Manja Pizza will be cash only that day, but are celebrating the community with offering pricing for pizza slices and pop of $5. Slice only will be $4. The Magic of Greg Miller will perform magic throughout the event, as well as balloon art. Art by Kev will be drawing 3 caricatures. We're looking forward to this great event, and that is all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the clerk? Moving on, thank you. No report from the assessor tonight. I will move on to the building report, specifically regarding the parking lot expansion. I did want to point out that we, meaning myself, Trustee Morelli, our senior maintenance team, did have a few meetings in April, notably one with the Rural Group Engineering, including the landscape engineers, as well as with the City of Lockport. And there were 3 meetings in total, which took place between April 10th and 20th, essentially making revisions to the plans that they had originally sent over. So the plans that I had that were sent over, I did forward to the board, and there were some, there was some input that I received from board members. Mainly one of the big ones that we really focused on in the meeting was just the enormous amount of landscaping that was initially proposed. And part of it originally was because the City of Lockport does have ordinances regarding landscaping and beautification, but part of our meeting with the City of Lockport was negotiating, what was required versus what we can have. And so thankfully, we will be saving a good amount of money based on landscaping. One of the big changes coming in is that northern portion that we see on the plan that borders our neighbors. Everything here we see on the border is a very dense set of trees, including like pine trees and then shrubs, which we found was far exceeding the expectations of the ordinance. So for that northern portion, we could actually replace most of that with a fence, which is what was preferred among neighbors as well. So those are the big changes. Other changes that were proposed was the driveway, coming into the township, that would be widened a little bit, which would make it easier for our buses. And then on the north side as well, if we look at the garages, we will be including asphalt on the west side of the new garage, as there is a separate door there, so we'll be able to use it. But generally speaking, the main changes were just a reduction in landscaping. We passed along those changes to the engineers. They are currently working on those. The next phase is the engineering told me they will wrap up in the next few days, hoping by end of this week, and then it will go to final review by the City of Lockport. So we were hoping to go out to bid by the end of May. Now it's looking closer to early June. That said, our timeline is still looking to be 3 months, and we do have a hard stop of October for the trunk or treat, and we are still meeting that timeline. Any questions on the parking lot?
I guess my only thought is, I attended yesterday, and I was talking to we were talking about becoming an emergency shelter, and she was talking about the parking lot being able to run off the water with the new idea of becoming an emergency shelter. Has that all been taken into consideration in this new parking lot?
I'm not sure if I understood. Could you elaborate more on, you said running on water?
She said something about the parking lot now with the new emergency in case of tornadoes and floods has to be permeable so the water can go through it at some points, and so it doesn't flood this parking lot in an emergency.
I see.
And being we're putting in a new parking lot, I want to make sure this is up to date for that too. I think she did indicate, our grant writer did indicate it was, but I just want to...
I see, I understand now. So the idea is, yes, from my understanding, that was part of the requirement. And that was one of the main reasons why we did hire the Will Group, was because we do have the wetland or the basin here. That makes us more prone to flooding. And so any part of this proposed plan needs to happen is permeable.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was one of the main reasons we hired them, but
All right.
that's a good point. Which is also part of the reason why they wanted to include more landscaping, but again, it was a little bit of overkill. So I think the total landscaping was going to be close to $200,000. So we knocked that down a little bit, thankfully. But yes, and we'll make sure it meets those specifications.
Yeah, I'd hate to put a new parking lot in and find out that this new grant that we received has to tear out a parking lot.
Right.
And put a new one in,
Right.
obviously.
And then part of the grant as well, if we'd like, I know the original capital proposal was for this to come out of capital reserves, but from what was indicated in the grant, what our consultants wrote in the grant, was, as it's written, we would, if we had any money left over, we would be able to use some of those emergency funds to cover a portion of the parking lot. But again, it would need to meet those specifications.
So does the back of the parking lot kind of slant slightly into the whatever that water area is?
The retention pond?
Yeah.
Correct, so it does slant slightly towards the west side, and then there's also some shrubs there. There's actually going to be curb and gutter, and part of what we see on the west side is there's going to be curves, but there's going to be, I forget what maintenance calls it, but breaks in between the curves, because one of the concerns was with plowing snow. You'd be plowing it, there's nowhere to put it other than making a big mound. So they'll be making breaks in the curves to make sure that we let the water and the snow through as well. Any other questions?
So
Dean?
what was the final landscaping? Where did you get it down to approximately? Or are they coming up with?
That's what they're coming up with the number. I know it was originally, they were giving a ballpark estimate. I know I'm using these numbers, but I should use them with caution. About 200,000, and we were hoping to knock it down at least 50 to 70. Mainly, again, because so as we see at the very bottom on the south side, you'll notice the circles are much lighter. Those are just shrubs, versus what we see on the west and the north and the east side, more dense. Those consist of evergreen trees as well as shrubs. It's like packs of 3. So with the city, we were able to negotiate that on the west side. You know, the purpose of this is to conceal certain parts, right, from traffic. But as you know, on the west side, there is not really any traffic on the west side, right? We're separating from a nearby community. So that was brought down to just what it is on the south side, just the shrubs. And then the north side that borders the retention pond, that little quarter section, that was brought down to shrubs. And then the remaining portion on the north side, from the edge of the retention pond to the edges of the garage, that was going to be replaced by a fence, less maintenance, and it's preferred by neighbors, etc. And then that eastern portion, that L shape, that did have to stay the way that it was because it was facing traffic. There were some smaller things as well, like if we look at the township building itself, if you look carefully, there were some requests to add landscaping around the building. But we confirmed with the city that since we are not making any changes to the building at this time, the landscaping doesn't apply, right? We're not going to pay extra money to get trees planted next to the doors. And then the shrubs on the western side of the parking lot, between the retention pond and the parking lot, you see there's a big line, like a big dark line. Those are all shrubs, and again, the concern was where we're going to put the snow. So speaking with the city, the bare minimum is just for 50% of the border to be covered. So we're going to do breaks in between that western side of the parking lot, breaks between the curb. The parts that do have the curb will have the shrubs, and then the parts with the openings will not have it. So we were able to reduce that. And then if you look at the easternmost portion of the parking lot where we have the driveway, if you look at where, like, for example, the sign is, right, you also see 2 vertical lines, which are, again, mainly shrubs. But, again, we were able to negotiate with the city. Having a vertical line of shrubs is just a bit awkward. And seeing as we already have trees there, what we were able to negotiate, again, is we only need half as much as requested. And 2, given we have trees, we could settle for just having flowers planted in a circular motion, in a circular pattern around the trees, which makes it much more natural, and it's, again, more cost effective than having just a big vertical line of shrubs. Any other questions? Dean, I know you were at the meeting, and I don't know if I missed anything. Do you want to add anything, or Lisa?
I mean, we had discussion, obviously, we see where these areas where they require, what do they call it, Alex?
The islands?
The islands.
Yes, you're right.
For either the shrubs. They don't require lights and all of them, which is good. However, behind the building, as you can see, they're requiring 6 islands, which we thought was a little much considering we're trying to get more parking spaces. They said the only way they would budge on that is if we wanted to make an amendment, and it would probably take like 4 months, you know, go in front of the board and everything else for them to, a variance type thing. And it's unfortunate because obviously it's you know, for cosmetics, being behind the building doesn't make a whole lot of sense as far as what we thought, but
And it hinders the public.
sure. And to get them to budge, like I said, their ordinance, they're not going to change their ordinance specifically for us. And a variance would take, you know, 4 to 6 months for them to go through approval process. We thought maybe their ordinance should have something at the end of it instead of changing it, that they should have the option to change it themselves if they thought it was necessary, because like I said, to have 6 islands back there for cosmetic purposes doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but that's what was discussed, but they wouldn't budge.
A lot of their ordinances make no sense to me, like working on a garage that doesn't face a road.
Right. No, and a lot of this, you know, like Alex said, there's no roads that are going to see the behind our building. There's a subdivision that probably doesn't matter.
And it's blocked by a retention pond.
Right,
bushes and
Right. I mean, Division Street, North Farrell can see the back of the building, but that's their requirement, so.
Yeah, and if there were just one Rollins, you know, 3 of them instead of 6 of them, it's probably 10 or so parking spots that
Oh,
we're
for sure,
using.
for sure. And why would you have more behind the buildings instead of the front? But they go by parking spaces, you know, so many parking spaces.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think another frustrating portion is if you look at the southernmost side of the parking lot, where it's just, again, a long vertical line, a long vertical road. You can also see there's like 2 half islands. And unfortunately, they do require that every so many spots. I think it's like for the islands that we see behind the building, it's you need an island for every 2 rows of parking lots, 1 at each end. And then for just a long vertical line, it was one for, I believe it was either 10 parking spots and or X amount of feet. So even if we just had a long vertical line, we would still need to have islands, which is, again, unfortunate. One other little item I wanted to add is if we look at the easternmost portion of the building, so where the main entrance is, currently we do have some brick and planters, right, for aesthetic purposes, but they also help for safety and security reasons for the township. But we're also one of the few government buildings that doesn't have other barriers, right? So if you look at Walmart or Target, where they do have certain poles that protect against, you know, anyone, God forbid, to drive into the building. So we took inspiration from the city of Joliet and their new city square, where they do have some poles that almost look like chess pieces. They're very aesthetic, but again, they do serve for security purposes. So we'll be adding a few of those spaced out in front of the building while still remaining ADA compliant. Any final questions? All right. Oh, I will let the board know, I will check in again with our engineers to keep track of progress, but I will let the board know once I do receive the final plans, and then we'll make sure to nudge the city a little bit to make sure that final review goes as planned, and then we'll hope to go out to bid pretty soon. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is mental health reports. I did include a copy of the March invoice where we see the total amount was for $14,999.03. So that was for the month of March. And then for the month of April, originally, when I requested the invoice, I didn't get it in time to put it in the scan packet, but I did receive it yesterday, so we were able to put it in people's printed packets, but I still wanted to bring it up. So that one in particular for the month of April was a busier month. Okay, so that amount was actually pretty high, $15,774.48. I would like to point out two things. One, generally speaking, when we do get an invoice, we do have our finance team audit the invoices along with the fire district to make sure that they do match our records. And currently, the grant balance remaining are off slightly. And so that's happened before, and again, so what we do is we do an audit, and then we confirm with them, and the township has always been right, so they'll correct it. But I would like to point out that it says the grant balance remaining is in the negatives, negative 22,000. I'll point out that the reason for that was, again, we approved an amount in this new budget, and we have not yet transferred any funds. And so we will do so, but again, we will only do that once both of our finance records explicitly meet. And so I know in the past few months, at the beginning of the year, Freiburg's did have a little bit of staff turnover, which is why the invoice has been a little late. It's a group that's transitioning, but we'll work on getting the final invoice soon. Any questions there? Seeing none, we'll move on to the senior bus report. So I'll let everyone flip to the senior bus report that's in everyone's packets. I do have some basic metrics to go over, and then I also have just a general update regarding the actual buses. So for the month of April, we actually had a good month. It was 560 trips total. The bus system was operational for 21 business days, which averages out to 26.7 rides per day. If we look at then the graph at the bottom, for 2026, that brings our monthly rides per month at 524. And so that is actually up from 512 last month. And as you can see, as time progresses, we're getting closer and closer to surpassing 2025. So we're hoping to be at the same level as 25, and if not, exceed it slightly. Any questions on any of the metrics for the bus report? Again, I did want to give an update on the buses themselves. So currently, we have 3 buses. They're numbered. We originally had 4 buses, right? Numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. Buses 3 and 4 are the newest buses we purchased in 2024. And then bus 2 is one of the original buses that we've had for some time. I will say that unfortunately bus 3 and 4 have given us some mechanical issues the past 2 months. Thankfully they're still under warranty. But they've been giving us far more issues than bus 2 has. Bus 2 has been running pretty smoothly. Bus 3, again, one of the newer buses, is currently in Kankakee as it is having door issues, meaning the doors aren't opening. And so again, that's covered by warranty by the supplier or Midwest Transit. And then unfortunately, bus 4 is currently in Plainfield at Rod Baker Ford. It stalled for the second time, actually earlier this week, and we had to get it towed. Again, this is the second time. That first time, we found out that the bus needed a new engine and a new transmission.
Wow.
And so that was in the past month. And again, it did receive a new engine and new transmission, covered under warranty, but it did once again have to get towed just earlier this week. And so it is, again, over at Rod Baker Ford, and we don't have an exact timeline as to when bus 2 and bus 4 will be operational again. Thankfully, again, bus 2, the older bus, is running perfectly smooth, and we do have, again, the senior van that we've been using as a backup, and so far it is doing well with the amount of volume. If we find that the volume exceeds what we can take on the van, we may consider renting the vehicle. But for now, I did want to let the board know some of the issues we were having with the 2 new buses.
Just wondering, Alex, if they sell us some lemons or refurbished buses?
Right,
that-
how many miles on them? Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's exactly what our administrator, who specializes in senior transportation, asked. And I will say I appreciate her being very respectfully aggressive on the phone with both Midwest Transit and Ron Baker Ford. But that is a concern that she has brought up, right? Where we sold some lemons. Again, thankfully the warranty has covered everything. And with the new engine and transmission, the warranty actually resets. But it is a concern of ours that unfortunately we're having issues with these 2, but not with our previous buses. So we'll continue to keep an eye on them. Any other questions? We'll move on then to our GA and EA reports. So, it was a moderate month. It was a moderate month, so for general assistance, we had 12 total applications. Of those 12, actually, none were eligible for general assistance as they were receiving prior assistance from the state. But for emergency assistance, 5 of them were eligible for emergency assistance. And so the total grant amount then was for $3,625.34. And then if we look at the next page for grant disbursements, we do see a list. As you can see, it varies. Some are for gas bills, some are for water bills, and some are for electric bills, and we had no rental to pay for this month. Any questions on the reports? So we'll move on then to new business. For new business, the food pantry. I wish I had better news. There's been some back and forth behind the scenes with the food pantry leadership, but that which I am confident to say tonight is that in the past few weeks we did receive finally the full set of bylaws from the food pantry, as well as a list of inventory. We're still working actually on the list of major donors. There seems to be some hesitation for the pantry to hand those over. But as far as the bylaws are, maybe I'll let our attorney describe it in better terms, but the bylaws are a little inconsistent and they contradict each other, meaning that at this time, it's a pretty high liability for the pantry to, I guess, take over the food pantry, for lack of a better word. And so I did communicate that formally to the food pantry leadership actually just yesterday. And so there's been some conflicting opinions as to what the next step should be. I know at this time, when I spoke with our attorney over email, the action item that we're currently taking is, given that right now it's not possible to take over the pantry, right? What are all possible alternatives we can look at, no matter how extreme, right? Whether that's, again, these are just hypotheticals, use these terms lightly, whether it's rewriting their bylaws, creating our own food pantry, and merging assets. or is it simply withdrawing? We're exploring all of the options here. But I do have a call scheduled with food pantry leadership tomorrow, and I'm hoping they have a decision on their end as to what they would like to do, because at this point it has been almost a year since we did have the original meeting, and we haven't frankly made much progress beyond that. Gary, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Sadly, you're right. I wish it wasn't, but
Did anyone have any questions on the food pantry?
I do. Would it be time consuming to rewrite the bylaws for the food pantry?
Gary, I'll defer to
Like
you on
how
that.
time consuming?
we haven't, we're not taking over yet, so they would have to do it on their own.
Okay.
My review of what they've got in place, I'm not even sure how they would do that, because we're not sure what actions they've taken before have been done appropriately, and what actions haven't quite been the way it was supposed to be done. So I don't know where you go back to start from, even, and then we aren't really sure who's able to take part in any decisions like that. So is it reparable? Maybe. Is that something I would suggest that our group try to help with? No. Because if I were they, I don't think I would want somebody from the outside telling us how to fix whatever we created to this point.
Maybe the best route to consider would be starting your own food pantry and then inheriting whatever they wanted to give us. But then, because my understanding, the food pantry kind of was put together by a lot of volunteers, and everything wasn't followed by all the dots and everything, so everything's kind of half put together, and it's hard to muddle through if you want to go exactly legal. So maybe the best way to look at this is start our own food pantry, not kicking them out, then inherit it and bring it in as best we can.
That may work, because part of the problem is that, once again, we're not sure what that entity is. One of the potential changes that may or may not be legally binding is directing to whom they can transfer this current entity. And in doing so, if they did that, they did it correctly, that would then suggest that we couldn't take it over anyway, because we're not a 501c3.
Yeah.
But if that wasn't quite done the way that it was supposed to be done, then we may not have to abide by that provision. So it's really one where we're really, to the board's credit, we've tried everything that we can to at least try to help or tell them that we're here, because I know that they are, you're right. Trustee Helbrico, they're wonderful volunteers. They've been doing this for a long time. They have a special affinity for what they've created. They've done a wonderful job. Sometimes it's hard to then let go, and especially let go if you're not sure that you can be the recipients of their whatever they've created.
I have one more question, if you don't mind. I'm going back to the financial part, the donors. Would we be liable, or would it be some type of conflict of interest to some of the donors?
Part of
Where's the money coming from?
Part of the analysis is included. Part of the reason why we would like to talk to the donors is we don't know what their energizing force is or what their impetus is. It may be that they only want to donate because it's the way that foundation is created, or that pantry is created, or the volunteers are involved with that. So even before this board were to either work with them to take it over or take it over totally without any further input, we need to know what you're accepting. So do we know whether those donors would still give if it's to the township? I don't have any idea. There are some donors that will give to a volunteer group for a pantry. Some of those donors may say, well, if the government's involved / township, I don't have the same reason to give, and it's not the same tax advantage to me to do that. I can find other places that give me the same tax advantage. So, and it's really simply making sure that whatever the township is able and or willing to do, that we know what we're walking into. Whether there's going to be a whole cohort of donors who will do as they've done for all these years, or whether it's half of us, or whether it's none of us. And we don't know, we don't know who's on the list. So Jim asked him.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
Any final questions on the food pantry?
Not really a question, but from what I recall, I mean, they kind of came to us asking if we would be interested in helping them out, which obviously we've done quite a bit. But from what I'm hearing is, you know, the situation over there might not be something we even want to get involved with, like it is. So obviously I'll take the lead from our attorney and the supervisor, but like I said, I think the township has, you know, stepped up and is willing to help, but it seems like it's not getting anywhere, at least soon.
Yeah, part of the problem is that even if the township were to be in a position to tell the current entity we're interested in, let's do something, based upon the documentation I've seen, I'm not even sure they have followed the right steps to get to the point to be able to tell us that we can take over. So I'm not even if we had the right number of people to say yes, I don't know if those are the right people. I don't know if all the other steps were followed. And we're not, unfortunately, not getting the documentation information to show the steps. You know, if you say there's 14 steps of process, that the other 13 to get us to here have been done. I have no idea.
Again, I do have a call scheduled with leadership tomorrow, and I'm sure I'll have several calls about this following tomorrow and later this week. So as soon as I have more concrete updates, I course I will let our attorney know, and then from there I'll keep the board posted. So, thank you. Other portions of new business, scholarships update. So these scholarships have been selected based on the board selections. And the schools were informed. So in particular for Romeoville High School, they actually had an award tonight on April 29th. I was present there to present one award to one student at Romeoville. And then for Lockport, it's actually happening tomorrow, May 13th. And then the awards overall for these students, as well as the higher education scholarship, the students that are in college, the awards will then be formally given here at our board meeting in June. We'll be taking some group pictures, so just as a heads up for the board. I wanted to give a quick update on the satellite office that we have in Romeoville. So we do have our lease that actually technically started at the beginning of May. Right now, actually, what we're working on is one is a formal handoff of the lease. Unfortunately, their CEO has been off and has been very ill, so I'm sending her my best wishes. But otherwise, the furniture and IT equipment have been ordered, and as soon as the lease is formally signed, we're ready to fully organize and set everything up by May 25th, or the end of May. But the big idea here then is we need to agree with the Senior Services CEO on a formal date in which we have a ribbon cutting, which, if we follow this timeline, would be towards the end of June. Our summer newsletter would go out in early June, and then our back to school fair that we usually have in Romeoville would be sometime in July, and it would be perfect because it would be right next to the new office. Any questions on the satellite office?
You were saying there's something about our insurance, but has that been resolved, or that you still have to get a hold of them to clear that up?
Sure. So for context, it's in order to also formally move in, right, we need our risk management agency, so TWRMA, to, obviously to further insure us at that location. So they need one line amended in the lease, which their CEO has already confirmed that, yes, there should be no issue. But again, I'll just note that she's been ill. We do have a call scheduled on Thursday, so I'm hoping we'll have a formal lease by then. But yes, we currently don't have that amended lease quite yet, but I'm really hoping to have it on Thursday. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on then to motions and approvals for tonight. So the main approval for tonight and the main topic for tonight's meeting is regarding the drainage project happening in Fairmont, the stormwater rehabilitation project. So for context, we did have a bid opening on April 29th, and there were 3 bidders. And so the lowest bidder in this case was PT Farrow. The second bidder was then Austin Tyler. There was actually a rigorous interview and selection process, mainly our engineers made some calls to some extensive references, or made some extensive calls to references, asked them some pretty heavy questions. And then on top of that, I know Trustee Johnson and I met with the leadership team of PT Farrow, as well as our engineers, and that actually just happened last Friday, just to give them a very frank, but also a strong but respectful view that this project is one that needs to follow a strict timeline. Because of the funding and the timeline that we must follow for us to receive funding, PT Farrow has been strongly informed that unlike other projects that happen with other entities where they work on a project, they take a step back, work on a different project, and then come back after a month or two, that's something that can't happen here. This is something that they need to follow through, and my understanding from that meeting is they feel like they have something to prove. They understand what's at stake here. They understand the reputation in the Fairmont area, and they also understand that this project, there's a lot at stake in this project. So they did give us a firm confirmation that they will very much prioritize this project. Trustee Johnson, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, that's a good synopsis.
So on that note, again, because there was a bid opening and because this is such a large project and it's part of the requirements from the federal government then are that we formally as a board vote to award this contract. And so that's what this resolution is, 2026-3. It was drafted by our attorney, so thank you, Gary. And then it was also had a final review from the engineers, so everything is set. Any questions on the resolution to award the contract to PT Farrow before we take a vote? Well, hearing none, if I can entertain a motion to approve resolution 2026-3.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson. Second by Ronald Barico. Madam Clerk, please have a roll call.
Sapien?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Alberico?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Motion carries. So for an update here, I will pass on the resolution to our consultants and the engineers tomorrow. The engineers are already working on finalizing the contract. Part of the template was already in the bid packet, and then from there we'll be sure to schedule a pre-con meeting with the contractor, and again, we're hoping to start construction as soon as June. Right. Next item on the agenda, so the Old Canal Days Parade. Typically, every year, as part of our support towards the city of Lockport and the chamber, we have typically supported Old Canal Days in the amount of $500, which grants us some extra perks for the parade, but that's the less important portion. I wanted, the chamber did once again propose this or request potential support from the township, but of course I wanted to open up for discussion from the board. I guess to move conversation along, how does the board feel about approving the usual $500 for Old Canal Days?
Did you want to recommend something different, or?
I think the usual 500 is fine.
Okay.
All right, so if I could entertain a motion to support the Old Canal Days with the amount of $500.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Karen Johnson.
I'll second.
Second by Dion Wright. Madam Clerk, please have a roll call.
Sapien?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Alberico?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. The final approval for tonight is something that I consider to be very important and is also tied to the Fairmont Drainage Project. One of the challenges that we've had in the Fairmont area in particular is outreach. Namely, we've had public workshops and public hearings here, and we've tried mailing, and it has worked to some extent. I have tried also going to churches, and there's a limit as to how much information we can present, especially given the bilingual barrier. One very good option that has been used that I see is becoming more popular is direct personal outreach with residents. So for example, as the board may recall, in 2024, when we did have an issue with Riley Avenue being repaved improperly by a contractor, again, we sent out letters and received no input, and that was just on one street. However, when I personally knocked on doors, I received input from all but one person in that entire street, and we were able to get information directly. So for Fairmont in particular, it's roughly about 900 houses. There's going to be some very major construction happening, meaning that there's going to be some changes in traffic, etc. Another challenge we've had in the past is, given that there is construction, there are folks, unfortunately, who pretend that they are engineers and ask to go into people's houses, and then, of course, they misrepresent the township or the engineers, and then they do, have any malicious behavior. So what this proposal would really help with, and it comes with very strong recommendations, is again, direct door-to-door outreach for purely government and informational purposes. And one thing that I particularly like about this, on top of the very detailed reporting and flexible hours, is the fact that this would also be bilingual, which, as we know in Fairmont, there is a very heavy Spanish-speaking population. So I present this proposal to the board, and I'll open it up for any discussion.
Did you talk or think any more about, they have the range of how much time is needed? That's like $200 different, so about a third or half more. Is that just like they would assess during the course of the canvassing whether more time is needed, or is that
right? So
just a rough estimate?
These are correct. These are ranges or estimates given to us. When I was presented with this proposal, part of the discussion was just how much needs to be knocked. So I presented the extreme case of all of Fairmont being knocked, and so again, the entire neighborhood of 900. Whether that's fully needed is debatable, given it's the southeast portion. But again, if we were to cover all of Fairmont, those are the estimated amounts. And I would say, from outreach experience, the amount of time is very reasonable, and it is a very good approximation, but those are, I would definitely say, would fall in that ballpark. But it's flexible to us. This isn't like a set, we're going to pay this amount. I think the best price point here is the price per hour and the hours per week. And the total is then an estimate. And then there's a regular option and an expedited option as well.
Is this paid for by the township or by PT Farrell?
This would be paid for by the township. I know, as I've discussed with board members, I think this would be a very good project for the township to take on, given, again, the challenge in outreach in Fairmont in particular. And again, I would like to reiterate that this is for the Fairmont project in particular.
And is that $40 an hour, is that per person or per team of two, or?
Correct, that is per individual, per canvasser. All right, does the board feel comfortable approving this proposal tonight? All right, so if I could entertain a motion to approve the outreach proposal with Movement Enterprises LLC.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Dean Morelli.
I'll second.
I have a second by Karen Johnson. Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Sapien?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Alrico?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Thank you. And again, one of the things I like about this proposal is the very detailed reporting. And so as soon as, the priority will be that construction be underway, and one of the items that I will have is have this group be in partnership with our engineers and our consulting group to make sure we're on the same page and make sure that the information we present to Fairmont is all uniform between all entities. So once we have a timeline for construction, we'll have this group help us out, and then I will be happy to report back to the board. Any final questions? That concludes all our motions and approvals for tonight. I would like to then go on to old business and, old business and past events and then upcoming events. For old business, I won't read through all of the events here, but I did want to highlight item F, which was a check presentation with Congresswoman Underwood. And so that actually happened yesterday. I know most of the board was there, and I was circulating some thank you cards that I'd like for the board members present to sign. But it was an overall great event. The Congresswoman presented a nearly $2 million check for the township's initiative to become a formal emergency shelter. And we had some good photos. We gave the Congresswoman a tour. I think it was a great experience overall. I'm not sure if one of the trustees wanted to chime in.
Yeah, that's good. I enjoyed
Very
it.
nice.
Nice celebration.
I enjoyed it. How did
Good
she
to
like
get
the
some
food?
federal funds, yeah.
I know that. How did she like the food pantry?
I would say in general, it was a condensed tour, but generally speaking, she was very impressed with the services we offer at the township. There were several that we explained to her, but I think in particular the ones that she really liked were like Meals on Wheels, our services to seniors, the food pantry, and then also was impressed by the diaper distribution and then the clerks program with breast cancer screenings or her scan. We'll move on then to upcoming meetings and events. So the two big ones we have are, of course, the Community Fun Day, as the clerk explained in her report. That is happening this Saturday, and that is from 10 a.m. Is it till 2 p.m., Aaron? Okay, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That'll, of course, be here at the township. And then not too long after will be the Senior Expo. That will be on June 3rd, and that will be from 9 a.m. to noon. And then finally, as I mentioned previously during the meeting, we will present the scholarship to winners at the next board meeting on June 9th. Here once again at 6:30. We're asking the students to get here a couple minutes earlier in case we can do any photos. So if folks are able to be here even 10 minutes early, that would be very, very helpful. And that will also be the first item on the agenda. Before we go into any minutes or business, we will go straight into presenting the awards. Any final questions or comments from the board? I did actually have one thing I wanted to bring up, and this may be just general input, but I'm sure our board may have heard either from the state of the city in Lockport, but also now through formal announcement from the city of Lockport, but there is a strong consideration for the building of a data center happening here in Lockport, where the old refinery used to be, where Canal Days is held. So they will be having a series of 3 workshops that are informational in nature. And so the first one being on May 26th, and that will be held at the high school, will be explaining the history of data centers, etc. I will say there has, of course, one can imagine, been a lot of input given by the public. I know the township in particular, I've received a few emails and I've received a few phone calls. And notably, I would like to say that I know 2 phone calls I received were about considering adding a referendum on the ballot in November on, what's the residents or the public's opinions on data centers. I don't know what that language would look like, and I did explain to the residents that I believe that if the township were to consider such referendum, that would likely be on the ballot for the township and not fully the city of Lockport. But maybe that's a question I can ask our attorney and the township clerk either now or maybe offline about what does that process look like if we wanted to consider that option? Is that a lengthy process? Is that something that would require just a board vote? What does that look like? Aaron, I don't know if you had any quick thoughts on that.
There's already things in motion, so we have to look on the county site and see what are the steps that would have to take place. And we've got ballot lottery placement, things that are already starting to happen for the fall, so we've got to take a look at that.
Got it.
For sure.
So
We
there's,
have the jurisdiction to put a referendum on the ballot for the city of Lockport. We're going to stay within our bounds.
And very limited, very narrow.
Yeah.
so I guess just to elaborate on that, are we saying that we can't have a referendum for the entire city of Lockport, or that we can't have a referendum regarding the city of Lockport go on the ballot of the township?
Right, we don't know what the township can do. We can't keep them from doing something there.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if there can be an advisory question, just polling, you know, kind of like the city of Homer Glen did about the township.
Abolishing
What
the
is the
township?
rule, the Jones law?
Yeah, we couldn't
Pretty
do
much tells
anything.
us
We have very
we can't
limited
make
skills.
decisions on gun control. We can't make decisions on the city, how they run their city.
Right.
We have to stay in our lanes.
We have very
Correct.
limited, townships have very limited
Yeah.
powers.
Okay.
When we follow power, we can only make decisions on what we can make
Just us.
decisions on, and
Yeah.
that's where I'm,
We don't want to open Pandora box and say we're over there and trying to tell the mayor how to run the city. We're like,
Well, and it's a council decision anyway.
yeah.
It's not a mayor decision, you would just break a tie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm wondering also,
It's
in
that
the
way.
city of, Homer Glen did this, they had no authority to do anything about what they were asking, but it was just an advisory to kind of take the pulse of the public on how they felt about something. They didn't have the authority to disband the township. It's covered under other statutes, but it was an advisory question that a government entity can put on the ballot. So I think a lot of what I'm seeing in posts, and I spoke with a resident in the last week too that was wondering about that. I don't know. I advise them to talk to the county to see how individuals might be able to do something through petition to get a referendum, but I wasn't sure if, because it's not our jurisdiction, if we could do that. But again, can we put an advisory question on the ballot for anything just to see what residents have to say? I think a lot of people are feeling like their voices aren't being considered and heard, and then it's up to the city to make their decisions. We have no input on that, but then they would see what that would be.
Well, what if you put a survey in your newsletter?
Pardon?
If you put a survey in your newsletter,
That's-
although it's, I mean, that's less
Kind
expensive.
of the same
You
thing.
may not
guess
get a
what
very
do you
good,
do
you may
with
not
it?
get a very good response.
What do you
but-
do with it, though? What
Yeah,
can you
exactly.
do with it?
It's-
That's
Then
the
you're gonna
thing.
go to whomever and say, this is what,
You do a survey on
We got our
Facebook, they're
survey.
gonna tell you how they feel.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But what do you do with it? Like Ron said, it's, a city thing,
I
and
think
it is
the
a
only-
city council decision.
the only serious thing we could probably do if we really wanted to was put a resolution out there saying, we think Lockport should do this, but we don't have no authority to tell them to. We think, but what good is that gonna do? Residents say what we
What
think.
we're gonna do with it.
You know, I mean, if you wanna go through the motions, it's not gonna do any good.
Yeah, again, the main purpose for this discussion was, again, we're in the very early stages of these workshops, and the township is already, starting to hear from the public. I myself have had formal conversation with the city manager and the mayor about this, just to outline what exactly the next few months are going to look like. And so I asked this question about potential advisory referendum because I anticipate that being a more popular, that being a topic of more phone calls. So I would just like to be a bit more informed as to what I can tell residents. So I appreciate everyone's input. Any final comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, there's no executive session for tonight. If I can entertain a motion to adjourn the regular township meeting.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Ken Johnson, second by John Wright. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Now, that's how we motion and second.